Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. It's just so weird, it's just so cringe. Can we stop talking about race for maybe half a frickin' second? What is it with the mainstream media and of course the leftoids who permeate that world that always end up bringing the conversation to a point of grievance politics and identity politics? You know, back in the 1990s, early 2000s, something you heard very often was to not see color, but rather see the individual for who they are and what their merits are as a person, as a human being. It's kind of the Martin Luther King Jr. doctrine in a way, and I think that philosophy that a lot of people personally adopted did a lot of good for society, and I think we saw a lot of improvements in terms of race relations for maybe a decade and a half, or 2 decades. And then intersectional politics and grievance studies spawned from woke academic culture at universities. It's now infiltrated every aspect of society, and it's basically tearing down all the progress that's been made, and everything is offensive. Merely saying that you don't see race is offensive. Well, if you don't see race, then you don't see the struggles, and you don't see your own privilege. You don't see what I have to go through every single day. Of course, as we know with the woke mob, nothing is ever good enough, and we're getting to this point where it's all just becoming so freaking toxic. And that's the conversation that I want to have after we listen to this absolutely viral clip coming out of ESPN's First Take with Stephen A. Smith, JJ Redick, and Kendrick Perkins. I honestly think that I'm the perfect person to tackle this subject. I played basketball most of my young life and have spent a ton of time analyzing the sport, and I also happen to know a thing or two when it comes to identity politics, politics in general, and cultural discussions. So let me take a shot at this. We got some stuff to get into. Let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this has gone massively viral. Watch, former NBA player goes rogue on live TV and calls out anti-white racism. Alright, so first you need a little bit of context. Here's what Kendrick Perkins said.
Why didn't he never bring up this in particular subject? When it comes down to guys winning MVP since 1990, it's only 3 guys that won the MVP that wasn't top 10 in scoring. Do you know who those 3 guys were?
Who were they?
Steve Nash, Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki. Now,
Dirk Nowitzki.
what do those guys have in common? I'll let it sit there and marinate. You think about it. Now here's the thing.
Of course we know the implication. They only won MVP because they're white. It's a real facepalm moment. And he's essentially implying that those 3 individuals didn't deserve to get MVP. His logic was they weren't top 10 in the league in scoring. Another facepalm moment. You know, scoring isn't the most important thing in basketball. There's a lot of guys who've had incredible scoring seasons like Russell Westbrook and James Harden, for instance. But those are also 2 players that if I was voting would never even make it close to the MVP conversation, regardless of how many points they scored or how many triple doubles Russell Westbrook achieved in a single season. Because there's more to analyzing the game than just looking at how many points they scored. Russell Westbrook, for instance, hogging most possessions. Same thing with James Harden and playing a total ISO game. Not to mention a lack of efficiency in terms of scoring. And in James Harden's case, not playing defense. You know, those are important aspects. Steve Nash won MVP twice. And apparently it's outrageous because he wasn't the top scorer in the league. The prevailing thought is that Shaquille O'Neal deserved it instead of him. But Steve Nash, in those seasons, led his team to incredible regular season performances, even making runs in the playoffs. But what made Steve Nash such an incredible player was his efficiency. Sure, maybe he didn't have the same stat lines as Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and other players, even I think LeBron James in the 05-06 season. Steve Nash will go into the history books as one of the most efficient players to ever play the game in terms of shooting efficiency and efficiency in terms of playmaking, leading the league in assists while maintaining low turnovers per game. And now the next 2 individuals, Nikola Jokic and Dirk Nowitzki, I mean, for me that's not even a conversation. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. Steve Nash is probably the only one that could be really debated. Did he really deserve it? I mean, at the time that he won MVP twice, he was going up against Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant in their prime. But to reduce the whole thing to Steve Nash won because he's white favoritism is ridiculous. The conversation really boiled down to efficiency, the actual stats, the numbers, not just leading the league in scoring, or PER, but a deeper analysis in terms of player productivity and player efficiency. But in the woke culture that we live in today, people have absolutely no issue with going on live TV in front of millions of watchers and listeners and condemning the entire organization of racism. It's just because he's the white guy, it's the white privilege. It's complete nonsense. And JJ Redick was having none of it. Take a look at this.
I want to just say something.
JJ, back give
Stephen A., I mean no offense to you, and I mean no offense to First Take, because I think this show is extremely valuable. It is an honor to be on this desk every day. It really is. But what we've just witnessed is the problem with this show, where we create narratives that do not exist in reality. The implication, what you are implying, that the white voters that vote on NBA are racist, they favor white people. You just said that. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That is exactly what you implied, Kendrick Perkins. That is exactly what you implied. Secondly, hold on.
I did not call. I stated the facts. And you're not about to sit up.
We all know what you implied the other day. We all know what you implied just now. Hold on.
I stated
one at a time.
It's the facts.
One at a time.
It's the facts. It's the facts.
Okay.
I am 100% on JJ Redick's side. Kendrick Perkins is absolutely out of line here. I mean, the way these types of accusations get flown around, I find incredibly destructive. I can't think of something worse that you could accuse somebody of. To be so comfortable and nonchalantly accuse an entire organization of discriminating against people based on the color of their skin, what immediately comes to mind is, who do you think you are saying something like that? Especially when you're so off base. Kendrick Perkins says, Giannis Antetokounmpo deserved it. Now, of course, I've said it a million times, I'm sure most of you guys know, I'm Greek. The Milwaukee Bucks are by far my favorite team. Giannis Antetokounmpo is my favorite player. He grew up in Athens, Greece. He's the Greek freak. He's my guy. And I will say without hesitation that Nikola Jokic deserves the MVP. Now, of course, if you take the Kendrick Perkins approach and you look purely at points leaders, Giannis Antetokounmpo is scoring 31.2 a game. It's incredible. It's historic. Nikola Jokic is averaging 24.4. The conversation should end there, right? No, because if you compare the rest of the stat line, Nikola Jokic is averaging a triple-double with 12 rebounds a game and 10 assists. He's averaging 10 assists a game as a big man. Those assists are converting to 2 or 3-point shots. Let's say we take an average of 2.3. Well, he's got 4.5 more assists per game than Giannis does, meaning you could add an extra 10 points of contribution to his stat line in terms of assists. That puts him at 34.4 points a game. If we evened out the assists for both players at 5.5, Nikola Jokic is simply producing more. Not to mention he's doing it more efficiently. In terms of field goal percentage for 2-pointers, he's beating Giannis by 10 points. He's shooting 3-pointers at a 40% efficiency, which is one of the hardest things to do in the game. And he has an above 80% free throw percentage, where Giannis is at 65.4. You cannot compare these two stat lines. Not to mention, he's leading his team to the top in the West, which is historically a much more competitive conference than the East. Anybody who has a basic understanding of math and analysis, anybody who looks at these numbers, it is clear who's producing more and who is doing it more efficiently. Now, my apologies to people who don't follow basketball and basically everything I'm saying here is Chinese or another language, an alien language, but hopefully you could at least appreciate the numbers themselves because the analysis is very straightforward, it's common sense, it's simple. Anybody who would be looking at this honestly would be able to look at the numbers and understand that it's either very close, it's a hard decision to make, like in the instance or the case of Steve Nash beating Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Shaquille O'Neal for the MVP in the early 2000s. It's not an easy decision to make. There's certain factors that you have to account for. And the idea that you would attribute malice, bigotry, and racism to the people who are making these decisions, looking purely at the data, the stats, shows us exactly how we're going backwards when it comes to race relations and just the general toxicity of rhetoric related to issues like this. It shows how much of a woke clown world we're living in, and I'm simply gonna say it. Kendrick Perkins joins Shannon Sharpe as one of the most bigoted and racist people on TV currently. Nikola Jokic isn't the leader in the MVP race because of the color of his skin. He's the leader in the MVP race because he's an absolute monster who's producing numbers like nobody else is in the league at an incredibly efficient rate. He has a 63% field goal percentage and a 40% three-point percentage. Those are historic numbers, and he's doing that while averaging a triple-double. I actually don't think that's ever been done in the history of the league. If those numbers keep up, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a record. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.